Welcome to DevOps interview preparation. If you are interested in mock interviews or interview preparation, then please reach out to me via email at awslearning1992@gmail.com. Let's see a few interview questions now. The first question is, from domain AWS Cloud, and the question is, you plan on running an open source MongoDB database all year on EC2 instance because your client wants it this design. Which instance launch mode would you choose? That is, which instance would you choose for the pricing purpose? We have been given 4 options: reserved instance, spot instance, on-demand instance, any of the above. Which will you choose? Take 15 to 20 seconds to carefully think about it and come up with an answer. Okay, let's see the answer now. The solution will be reserved instance. So now the question is, why is the solution reserved instance and not something else? So the right answer is reserved instance. Okay. Now let's read the question. So you plan on running an open source MongoDB database all year long on an EC2 instance. This is the key point if they ask you in the interview. Here, what they're trying to tell you is this EC2 instance will be running 24/7 all the 365 days of the year. Now, if you're already aware of the capacity that is required for your application beforehand, in this case, 1 year, then why run it on demand? Because it is going to be expensive, correct? Now, you could probably choose spot instance, but remember the fundamental idea behind spot instances is it can be taken away at any given point of time. So it is not a suitable option for us. Then comes reserved instance. Now, reserved instance, we can write a contract with AWS saying that we want to reserve this kind of EC2 instance for the whole year. This will give us a significant amount of discount and also guarantees that this instance will be present throughout the year and will not have any issues. That is why the right solution is reserved instance. There is another clue that you can consider here. We are trying to implement a database. Now, if we want to run a database, it needs to be highly available. We cannot have a database running on spot instance because what happens if this machine goes down? All the data that is present on the database is lost. This is not accepted. Because we are running also the database, this proves that our answer, that is reserved instance, is the right option for us. If you have got this question correct, congratulations. If not, my solution or the answer should help you to answer this in the interview much better. Let's go to the next question. The domain over here is Jenkins, and the question is, what is pipeline as code? The question is, what is pipeline as code? Take 10 to 15 seconds to answer it. Or think about this in your mind. What is the right answer for this? Okay, let's see what is the answer for this now. So the question is coming from the domain Jenkins, and the question is, what is pipeline as code? So the definition of Jenkins pipeline is written into a text file. This text file is called as a Jenkins file. We are all aware of Jenkins file. You would have learned this in your DevOps training or your day-to-day work. This Jenkins file, which will also be committed to your project repository. This is the foundation for pipeline as code. You can see here. What we are trying to say over here is, how should our pipeline look? That is, we have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, etc. All of this definition, we are trying to write and implement in the Jenkins files. So in other words, instead of doing this process manually, we are trying to automate this process or make sure that it is committed in our repository by letting this information in the source control repository. This process is called as or this is the foundation for pipeline as code, meaning how should your pipeline look like in the Jenkins is defined in the Jenkins file, and this section is called as pipeline as code. This is a very important key term that you should remember, because usually we remember Jenkins and also Jenkins file, but all of a sudden if they ask us, do you use pipeline as code? We should know that yes, we do. We have learned about this and we know what it is. And official documentation is in the link. I hope these two questions are helpful for you to prepare for mock interviews. Again, if you're interested in attending and practicing mock interviews with me, you can reach me out at awslearning1992@gmail.com. I will provide mock interview preparation in a very reasonable cost for you with resume review and other features. So thank you for this video, watching this video. Catch you or speak to you in the next video. Welcome to DevOps mock interview. If you're interested in preparing for DevOps interviews and want to crack interviews with your efforts, then I can prepare you for mock interviews. If you are interested, email me at awslearning1992@gmail.com. Let us go to our DevOps mock interview questions today. The first question is, what is Terraform Modules? Why do you use it? I'm going to repeat the question again. What is a Terraform module and why do you use it? Think about it. You should remember this from your experience from Terraform or from your learnings from Terraform training. Got the answer? Now let us see how to answer this particular question. Terraform modules are basically structured ways that can help you to avoid repeatable code in your Terraform structure, okay? So Terraform modules are basically modularized code that you can basically import from an open source repository and start using it. Terraform modules will help you to avoid repetition in your code base, and most importantly, all of your modules will have a standard structure and versions available. You have a lot of modules present in what we call as Terraform module registry. You can access this in the website, something like this. You can see here, this is AWS VPC model, Terraform module, and this is the Terraform module for VPC. What does it say is that this module will help you to create AWS VPC, and it is maintained in this location. You just need to pass the inputs as per the requirement and then start using the module. In your company, when you start working with Terraform, you will end up writing so much of resources, right? You will probably have 5 to 10 number of VPC, a lot of subnets, security group, network gateway, S3 buckets, etc. It becomes a problem if everyone starts writing a resource block, and hence we use what is called as Terraform module. Now, how to answer this in the interview? If they ask you, have you used Terraform module? If they ask you this question, you can answer something like this. Yes, I am aware of what is Terraform module. Terraform module help us to modularize our code base to maintain a structure in our Terraform repository that we use for our infrastructure, and also make sure that all of the code that has been written are of a particular standard which is present in the open source repository offered by Terraform itself. That is open source registry offered by Terraform itself. I have been using Terraform modules for resources like VPCs, S3, etc. And I plan to extend this to other resources also. This is how you can answer this question in the interview. Let's go to the next question now. The next question is, observe carefully. What is the VPC and what component in VPC will allow internet traffic into the VPC? What is a VPC and what component in VPC will allow you internet traffic into the VPC? Think about this. This should be either covered in the VPC session that we had, or if you are working already in AWS, you should have observed this in the VPC console. Okay, so what is VPC? VPC, as the name suggests, is known as Virtual Private Cloud. It will help you to make sure that in the same AWS account, you can run multiple different projects of different natures without interacting between each other. It basically creates a virtual network inside your AWS account. Simple. What component in VPC will allow internet traffic? Internet gateway, right? Internet gateway is a serverless module that is available in AWS that, when attached to a VPC, will allow public internet to flow through the VPC. This is the definitions of VPC and what is the component that will allow the traffic into the VPC. Now, how do you answer this question in the interview? Here is how you can answer it. VPC, like I'm aware, is called as Virtual Private Cloud, meaning in the same AWS account, if we are running different projects that don't need to interact between each other or are completely different business models, we can separate them by creating a VPC. By default, if you create multiple VPCs in your AWS account, they won't be interacting. Hence, it is secure and also make sure that you have granularity of your projects. Second, if your VPC has some resources that needs to be accessed via the internet, then what you can call as internet gateway can be attached to the VPC, which when attached will allow the internet traffic to flow to our VPC system. Now, VPC and internet gateway are both an important component in our network security. In my current team, when I joined, VPC and internet gateway and all of this were already established. Hence, I didn't really work on it much, but I'm aware of these concepts already, and I will try to implement if it is required with the knowledge that I have currently. This is how you can explain these questions in the interview. That is all for this video. If you are again interested in taking up mock interviews, then reach me out in the email ID that you see in the bottom of the screen. If you like this small video, kindly please like and subscribe so that it will help me to motivate and put more and more videos. See you in the next video. Till then, take care and prepare for your interviews very well. Bye-bye. Welcome to DevOps mock interview, part 3. If you're interested in taking mock interview, prepare for DevOps job. If you have taken a DevOps training, but you're not able to clear some interviews, you want to prepare for these interviews with me, then you can email me at awslearning1992@gmail.com, and we can set up mock interviews for you. And you can also speak to me before that. If you have any questions, reach me out at the email ID that you see on the screen. Let's start this session, the third session that I have planned. And the first question for this session is from GitHub. What is the GitHub approval process followed in your organization? Question again, I'm going to repeat it. What is the GitHub approval process followed in your organization? So, where is this question coming from? Let's try to understand this. Usually, GitHub is considered to be a common technology that every engineer should know. They won't directly ask you anything on GitHub unless and until it's required. But they might be interested to know how your workflow in your company looks like. So if you're working in a team and if you want to make a change, you will not make a change directly logging into a server. That's a very bad practice. It means there is a certain structure or a flow that has been set up in your organization, which requires some code change and it involves some Git. So in this question, they want to really understand, are you really working in a company that has this process set up? Because anyone working in an organization will come across this GitHub approval process. So what is this process? Let us try to understand this. The first process is you prepare a PR. Now, how do you prepare a pull request? I will not go into that details as of now, but it's a very fundamental thing. You clone it, you create a branch, make your commit and PR. So that is how you create a PR. But what happens when you create a PR? once you create a PR stands for pull request, an automated test will run on the changes you have made. Let us say you made some changes in Terraform for a machine change or something. It's going to run Terraform format, Terraform apply. I'm sorry, not run Terraform apply, Terraform format, Terraform plan, and it's going to see if your code is proper. This is the test code. Once test code has been passed, meaning the tests have been passed. That is, your infrastructure looks good or your Java code looks good, doesn't matter which code, it looks good. Once the test has been passed, it might send an email automatically to your senior engineer. Or you might it might send a message to Slack saying there is a pull request for approval, kindly please review it. So if you're working in an organization that involves a hierarchy, you will ask a review from your senior engineer or your colleague for that matter. Now they're going to review it and they're going to share some comments, if any, and they're going to ask you for some changes, if any. And in the end, they will make sure that you get what we call as +1. So +1 means they have approved the changes. So they will approve it or give +1, and only after +1 you can merge it. So this is the process followed in most of the organization, and you can use the same answer in the company also. Okay. So that's the approval process that you can mention. You can fine tweak this answer further. The next thing is the question is coming from Hashicorp. What is the secret engine used in your organization and how does it help? So what is the secret engine used in your organization and how does it help? So what is the secret engine? Let's come there. I will give you a simple example. You might have used Terraform to create an EC2 instance, which is totally fine. But once you start going to other services like databases, where will you store the password that gets generated, right? Databases have password. Where will you keep it? Similar way, in your CI/CD process, you have to store passwords. You might have not done it as a part of the training, but in real world, passwords are very common. Secrets are very common. Now, you cannot store them in plain text format in your GitHub repository because that's basically a password leak if you store it in GitHub repository. So what is the answer here? The answer over here is Hashicorp Vault. Or, for example, you can also use KMS in AWS. Now, Hashicorp Vault is very famous and many of the companies have it today. This Hashicorp Vault is used to store sensitive data related to your project. Now you can retrieve the sensitive data as part of your code. You can mention, for example, you can mention in Terraform that vault.xyz. It's going to interact with the Vault server. It's going to get it. Now to interact with the Vault server itself, you might need some authentication, but that can be handled by your IAM role. So you don't need another authentication. But Hashicorp Vault is a very famous solution that is present to manage secrets. So if this question is asked in the interview, you can say that in our company, we are using Hashicorp Vault where all the passwords are stored. This is maintained by our security team. You can mention like that because usually this is a different setup. You might not be maintaining it. And if you're unaware of this, you can just say it is maintained by some other team. So it is totally fine. Now, if Vault is not an option, you can say we use default AWS KMS setup, which will also suffice in most cases. So these are the two questions for this session. I hope it was insightful. Again, if you like this video, please click on like button. It's going to motivate me to publish more videos. If you also want to take a mock interview session with me, you can see the email ID in the bottom, also in the description section. Go there, email me, and then I'll share some details with you. You can also speak with me personally, share your thoughts about what you want to plan, and I can assist you further. Thanks for the session. Speak to you in the next mock interview video. Welcome to DevOps mock interview part 4. In today's session, we are going to discuss two questions of mock interview and see how to answer them. If you are also interested in the mock interview, you can email me at the email ID that you see on the screen. And I take mock interviews. The prices are very less for each mock interview session. So don't hold back. If you're preparing for your job and want to take DevOps mock interviews, email me right now. Let's start the session and see what's the first question. The first question is from the domain Docker, and the question is, can we write Docker Compose file in JSON? If yes, will the below command work fine or will it fail? The command is docker compose -f docker compose.json.r. This can be asked in the interview, and if you have mentioned Docker in your resume, and if you have been using Docker Compose to spin up Docker containers. If you have not used Docker Compose at all, you can answer, of course, that you have not used it, and you can take a second guess saying it might work. But usually, for any profiles that we're interviewing for DevOps, Docker Compose is a very basic concept, and we expect that these concepts are very well aware for our DevOps engineers. So what are Docker Compose files usually written of? Let's try to understand that. But before that, take 5 seconds to guess your answer and keep your answer in your mind. So what's your answer? Well, let me share my answer with you. Yes, you can write Docker Compose file either in JSON or YAML. YAML is the famous way of writing Docker Compose file, and which is what we are taught in most cases. But YAML is a superset of JSON, meaning if you write something in YAML, it can be converted to JSON and it's still valid. Especially if you're speaking of the Docker Compose file, it does take the file format of both YAML and JSON. So how do I answer this question in the interview? You can answer like this. Yes, we can use YAML format to prepare our Docker Compose file, meaning the command that you shared with me will work fine because YAML is a superset of JSON. And hence, if you write this in JSON or YAML, it is totally valid. So to answer your question, writing Docker Compose file in JSON or YAML doesn't matter. Both are valid and both are proper way of representing our Docker file or Docker Compose file. Let's go to the next question. The next question is coming from the domain AWS. The question is, what is AWS Aurora? What kind of RDS do your project use? Speak a bit about DB failures with respect to Aurora DB. So this is an in-depth question about database. And here, the interviewer is also trying to ask your experience around databases, especially in cloud. This does look like a tricky question because they are expecting you to share some experience. But let's see how you answer. Take 5 seconds to prepare your answer in your mind. Okay, let's see what's the answer for this. Now, if you have worked with Aurora, only then try to answer this. If you have not worked with Aurora, then try to answer something like this. I am aware that Aurora database is one of the serverless database given to us by AWS, but I have not used it in this project, so I might not be able to explain a bit more about my work experience with Aurora. Okay, now if you have worked with Aurora, then you can give an answer something like this. Aurora is a serverless database, and currently in our projects, we have a few of them running, both in staging and live. Now, Aurora, the reason why we have shifted to Aurora is because it is completely maintained by AWS and offers us a lot of support in terms of configuration, management, scalability, and disaster recovery. Aurora database failures, which you also stressed upon, is completely handled by AWS because at any given point of time, Aurora automatically maintains 6 copies of the data across the availability zones. and will automatically attempt to recover your database in a healthy availability zone which has no data loss, meaning your data has been copied 6 number of times in different availability zones in your region. So it's almost disaster proof. It is unlikely, in case it is unlikely event your data is unavailable with Amazon Aurora storage itself, you can restore your DB from a snapshot using point in time restore methodology in Aurora. So this is how you can explain a bit more about Aurora and also share your experience about Aurora database. So this is it for this video, my friends. If you have any questions in your mind, which you want me to answer, leave a comment below and please like and subscribe because I'm going to publish more videos like this on a daily basis so you can keep on following with me. Thanks a lot for this session. Speak to in the next session of DevOps mock interviews. Welcome to DevOps interview questions. If you are visiting this channel for the first time, there are a lot more videos of this interview questions. I publish 2 questions every day and answers for DevOps questions every day. If you are interested to speak with me or take mock interviews with me to prepare for DevOps interviews, the website link is in the description. Please go and click there. You can get my WhatsApp number and more details about the course, the mock interview in the description in the website link. Let us go through today's mock interviews or DevOps interview questions, part 5. The question is from domain Jenkins. And the question is, what is a controller and what is an agent in Jenkins? What is a controller and what is an agent in Jenkins? Think about this answer. If it is asked in the interview, how will you answer? Fundamentally, you should remember this concept is taught in Jenkins in the beginning itself when we speak about the architecture of Jenkins. Let us try to understand some fundamentals and see how to answer this. When we speak about scaling up Jenkins running on multiple machines, then we have to bring in a concept called as controller and agent. Role of a controller is handling of scheduling of the jobs. Okay, so its main work is scheduling your CI/CD jobs. Role of agents is to run those jobs. Fine. So agents are common in multi-node Jenkins setup in any mid-size company. So nobody will be having Jenkins running on one EC2 instance because it cannot scale. So how would you answer this in the interview if they asked you this question? You can answer something like, agents are basically tasks or jobs that run the jobs provided by the controller, and controller in Jenkins is what schedules all of these jobs. The concepts of a controller and agents comes into picture when we intend to scale our Jenkins into a bigger architecture, into a multi-node setup. So this is what I am aware of what is Jenkins, controller and agents. In our organization, we also have controllers and agents because we are a mid-sized organization and because we run a lot of Jenkins job, we tend to use this multi-node architecture of Jenkins. This is how you can answer. Of course, if you have any questions and doubts, leave a comment in the YouTube channel or reach me out in the link that you can see in the description. Let's go to the next question. The question is coming from Artifact, and the question is, what is a local and a remote artifact? Which one is commonly used in organization and why? So this question usually comes from Maven, which could be taught in your DevOps course. So how to answer this? Let us first understand what is local and remote artifactory. Local and remote artifactory are common way of storing your final code in zip, jar, wheel formats. In general, compressed formats. Local artifact is a folder in your local system, and it can't be used by anyone else. So if you zip your Java code, if you make a jar file in your local system, then it's in your local system. You cannot share it with everyone else. Wherein a remote artifact, which is like Maven, etc., is hosted in your organization, where you can upload your artifact with a release code, with a release number. And from there, any number of people can actually download this artifact and actually run it. This is the same concept that is used in every organization to scale their application. Now, where will local artifacts be used? Only using local development to test if everything is fine. But when it comes to production, remote artifact is what is used. So how do you answer this in the interview then? This is how you can answer. Local artifacts and remote artifacts has a major difference in the place where they keep their final jar file or compromised file. So the compressed file, if it is stored locally, then it is local artifact, meaning this cannot be shared with anyone. If it is stored remotely, like Maven, etc., then it's called remote artifact, meaning many people can download it, run it, test it, etc. In my organization also, our developers, they prefer to use remote artifact, which is Maven, and we do support them if they want to do some development on Maven. Local artifact is, of course, a part of testing and development in their local setup, but nothing in the local artifact can go to production, because if it does, then we don't know where it came from. And if you want to roll back and have issues, it becomes difficult to track. These are two questions in today's video. If you are interested in following up with me, prepare for DevOps mock interview individually, one-on-one. It is not a group mock interview session, just between you and me, and prepare for mock interview session. Click on the link that you see in the description. Reach out to me in WhatsApp. We can have a chat and we can discuss this further. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I will publish one video every day. You can follow up with me and prepare for the DevOps interviews. Thank you. Welcome to DevOps interview preparation part 6. If you are new to this video, I have already published 5 other videos. You can go and watch and prepare with me for the DevOps interviews. If you wish to practice and take mock interviews with me, there is the link in the description where you can reach me out via email or WhatsApp, and we can discuss how we can take mock interviews for you in terms of DevOps. So let's begin part number 6 now. The first question is coming from the domain Jenkins. And the question is, how do you handle security in Jenkins? Think about it. How do you handle security in Jenkins? They might just ask you this question, as a general question, want to understand how are you maintaining it. Why would they be asking this question? Well, in the interview, if you say that I have used Jenkins, we take care of Jenkins, our team owns Jenkins, in this case, they might ask you this question. So be careful what you also say and project in the interview, but let's focus on the question now. So how do you handle security in Jenkins? Well, let's see the answer. So when we speak about security in Jenkins, there are a lot of components that gets involved. Which security are we speaking of? Are we speaking of secrets? Are we speaking of login and authentication? Or are we speaking of making sure that Jenkins is inside a VPC that is avoiding any public traffic? So you have to break this question into multiple pieces and try to answer one of them. As I have just asked, how do you handle security in Jenkins? We can start by saying that Jenkins login authentication can be done by different LDAP services. What are LDAP services? It's something like Azure SSO login or Gmail login, etc. Apart from this, there are other authentication methodology also that exists, like secret authentication, authentication with GitHub, etc., which also speaks about security in Jenkins. So how do we answer this in the interview then? This is how you can answer it. You can say that Jenkins security is based on multiple pieces of what we do inside Jenkins. On a broader scale, if I were to say, if I have to authenticate someone in Jenkins to begin with, which is the first and foremost authentication that I can do, then we have integrated this authentication that is logging into the Jenkins via LDAP service that our company has. So we will not have anyone using a same password. That is, the company is not using the same admin password, admin username and admin password to log in. Instead, we have dedicated username and password, which we get from LDAP, and it gets integrated. Okay. So let's go to the next question. But before I go to the next question, if you are liking the way I'm presenting it, if you're understanding it, if you are seeing that there is value to this, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. My aim is to publish such videos, which will be around 6 to 7 minutes. That's it, every day. But I need your support. I need you to like this video. I need you guys to follow the channel. So it encourages me to do it. Well, let's go to the second question. And the second question is coming from Kubernetes. What is liveness probe? Why is it used? Also, what's a failure threshold for this liveness probe? Needless to say, this question is coming from Kubernetes. And if you have taken Kubernetes as a part of your course, if you have mentioned Kubernetes as a part of your resume, then you should be knowing this concept. If you have not mentioned it, don't worry, it's not a big deal. You can say that I have not used it. So what's the answer for this? Liveness probe is responsible for having to check if the pod is running properly or not, or is in a proper state or not. So what is a proper state? When the pod gets deployed, so you have a deployment file, right? And from this deployment.yaml, your pod gets deployed, okay, inside the Kubernetes. Now, if this pod is in good health, who is checking this? Good health is important because without the good health, it might be possible that your pod is not in the right state. So somebody has to check that the pod that has been deployed, into our service is really proper. It is good, it's functioning, and also it's in a running state, most importantly, right? And that is done by the liveness probe. And what is the threshold? So sometimes when you spin up a pod, it can take 1 second. And sometimes when you spin up a pod, it can take up to 10 seconds, which is fine because it depends on your application. And liveness probe actually runs immediately after the pod deployment. So in the first case, what happens is it says that, okay, it looks good. But in the second case, the liveness probe might fail because your pod will not be in a running state until 10 seconds. So you can add some threshold here, meaning it will wait for certain time and it will wait for this pod to really come up. And you can add a threshold like in seconds or retries. So it will keep on retrying until for some time, and then it gives a successful result. This threshold is important because not all application will just come up in 1 second, right? It depends on your team and etc. So how do you answer this in the interview then? Liveness probe is responsible for checking the status of the pod once a deployment is completed. Ideally, the status of the pod has to be in the running state, meaning it is healthy, which marks the deployment as successful. In certain cases, we might tend to see that the pod would take a bit more time to get started and come to the running state, in which case we can add some threshold to wait for the liveness probe to continuously evaluate the situation of the pod and give us the result after certain time. I hope these interview questions are helpful. My friends, don't forget to watch 5 other videos in the same channel. If you follow this channel and if you practice with me in the mock interview, and the interview questions, you will definitely get a job, don't you? Because you're practicing with me, you are seeing how I'm presenting the answer. All you have to do is encourage me, click me a like button, subscribe the channel. And if you want to speak with me, if you want to interact with me, go to the link in the description, reach out to me via WhatsApp or via email, and we can have a chat. Thank you and bye-bye. Welcome to DevOps Interview Preparation Part 7. If you are new to this video, please go to my channel and you will get 6 other videos where I have discussed different DevOps interview questions and answers for them. In this video also, I'll be presenting 2 different questions and how to answer them. And please do wait till the end. In the end, I'm going to give you a pro tip how to tackle interview questions. So let's start today's session. And the first question is coming from the domain Helm. Question is, why use Helm in K8s? Why use Helm in K8s? Think about this topic a bit and how would you answer this in the interview? Well, first of all, let us try to understand what is Helm. What exactly is Helm? Helm helps you to manage your Kubernetes application. And it does this via what we call as Helm charts, which you can define, install, and upgrade, using which you can define everything. You can install Helm, using which you can install the Helm chart, and you can maintain your Kubernetes application very easily. It's a fact that when you deploy an application in Kubernetes, it looks simple, yes, but what happens when you have 20 plus applications running on a Kubernetes cluster? You will have so many files generated, it will become very difficult to manage. Hence, Helm comes into picture, which reduces this overhead burden of managing small files in Kubernetes. It is mostly written in YAML, making it very easy to use and formulate everything in a single place. Every component of your application, that is deployment, backup, service account, replica set, everything can be a part of a Helm chart. You can do a deployment. Not only that, you can roll it back if you don't want that deployment to go ahead. That's the power of Helm. And if you publish this chart, people can also use it. Other people can also start using these charts. So how will you answer this in the interview? Helm is a way of maintaining your Kubernetes application, and it helps you to upgrade, deploy, and roll back your Kubernetes application. When you have more than one application in a Kubernetes cluster, it will become difficult to manage all of these smaller files related to this application, and Helm chart solves this problem. This is how you can explain this in the interview. Let's go to the next question. It is coming from domain Jenkins. What are some basic required parameters for Groovy pipeline without which it will fail? In fact, this question was asked by one of my students who had attended DevOps mock interview session. And after that, my student had asked this question, and hence I have added this in this video. Okay, so let us understand the question. What is getting asked here? They are trying to ask you that in the Groovy scripting that you will write to create pipelines, what are some minimum parameters that are required without which the pipeline will fail? Meaning, if you remove this parameter, it might fail. So what is it? It's very easy. So see a small pipeline code that I have written on the right side. What is it? It's a Groovy scripting pipeline code. So it has some parameters mentioned. So formulate this into what is the requirement. First of all, the JSON formatting has to be proper. First point. Second, you have to mention the agent. Okay, you have to mention the agent. Okay, so first of all, JSON formatting has to be proper. Okay, you can see there are different kinds of JSON formatting. Then agents has to be mentioned. If not, Jenkins will not know where to run it properly. Okay, then the stages has to be mentioned. Okay, minimum required parameters, my friends. Stages has to be mentioned. If you don't declare the stages, then you will not know, the pipeline will not know what stage it is. What is a pipeline? Pipeline is a collection of stages. It will one stage will get your code, one stage will get your code from GitHub. The second stage will probably run some test. Third stage might integrate this with Honeycomb. And the fourth stage might integrate with the Sonar Cube. Fifth stage might deploy it or zip it or make it into a jar file and upload it, etc. Right? Next is steps. What are the steps that you want to perform in a single stage? For example, if it is a Git clone step, then how many steps you can have? First step is cloning the repo, and next step is maybe changing the branch. If you don't want to deploy the master branch, you can change the branch. So all of these parameters are important for a Groovy script. Okay, now how do we answer this in the interview? How do we answer this in the interview? In Groovy scripting, the minimum required parameters that has to be present for the pipeline not to fail are: first, JSON formatting, proper JSON formatting. Second, mentioning of agents. It can be any or it can be certain agents, but it has to be mentioned. Third, stage. What are the different stages that my pipeline needs to have? Minimum, there has to be one stage. If there is no stage at all, then there is no pipeline. Am I right? So minimum, there has to be a stage. So stage has to be mentioned. And fourth one, a step. So minimum one step has to be present. If you mention the stage, you cannot have a stage that doesn't do anything, correct? Hence, you have to also have a step. So JSON formatting, agents, stage, and steps, all of them are required in my Groovy script. These are minimal requirement in my Groovy script for it to function and not to fail. This is how you can answer this in the interview question. Remember, I said I will give you a pro tip for preparing for DevOps interview. It is very simple. It is very simple. If you are interested in attempting DevOps interview, practicing it, if you want to know where do I stand, how much do I know, you can click on the link in the description. Also reach me out via WhatsApp. The number is mentioned in the description, and I will take mock interview sessions for you, using which you can prepare for the interview sessions, for DevOps interview sessions. Not only that, you can also evaluate your knowledge. This topics, how much do I know? How well did I answer in the interview? I will be asking all of these questions, and all of that will be recorded and it will be presented back to you, using which you can self-prepare for the interview sessions. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it is, please do like and subscribe, and we will meet in the next video. Thank you. Welcome to DevOps Interview Preparation Part 8. If you are watching this video for the first time, then I would like to let you know that there are 7 other videos in my channel, which you can go and see all the other questions I have discussed. All of these questions are coming from my students and myself who have experience in DevOps, and what kind of questions can appear in the interview. Do wait till the end of the video. If you do, I will let you know how you can reach out to me for any DevOps related career discussion for free. Okay, let's see what kind of questions will appear in this video and how to answer them. The first question is coming from the domain GitHub, and the question is, what is Git Log? What information in Git Log helps you? Now, if you are preparing yourself for a DevOps interview and you have taken a training or you have worked in an IT company, you are aware of what is GitHub, right? There is a command that we can use called as Git Log, which will help you to do a lot of things. And that is what the interviewer is expecting from you in this particular question. You can pause this video here and try to see how you can answer it. But let me go ahead and try to explain a bit more about Git Log and then how to answer this particular question in the interview. First of all, Git Logs is a command that will help you to explain the current state of your repo with respect to the commits and other information. I have shared a screenshot here or an image here from Atlassian, And you can see the output of Git logs will look something like this. So here it is saying that this is the master commit, right? And after that, there were some previous commits that were added. And then based on this, it was merged. And there are other future commits that are being added. Where will Git log help you? Maybe there is a situation in the future where you have to go back in history and pick certain kinds of commits only and build your application, which is very common. In this case, you want to know when these commits were made, what were these commits, etc. Hence, this particular command will really come into help. There is this extension of this command that you can see here, which I have mentioned. You can also use this command to get a beautiful image like a tree view that you can see in the bottom. Okay, so how do we answer this question in the interview? Git logs are basically a command in GitHub that will help me to see the history of all the commits made in the repository. This particular command will be handy in case we have to go back in the history of our commits and pick certain commits and rebuild our application jar. In that case, these commands are really helpful to understand when and how these commits were made and to pick them properly. This is how you can answer this particular question in the interview. Let us see the next question now. But before that, let me let you know that if you are interested in preparing for DevOps interview, then reach me out to the email ID that you see on the screen, awslearning@1992@gmail.com, and I can help you to prepare for DevOps interviews if it is required. Let's see the next question, and the next question is coming from the domain AWS. And the question is, what is bid price in AWS EC2 spot instances? A very basic and very fundamental questions, my friends. Again, in EC2, I am pretty much sure you have heard about spot instances. And in the interview here, they are checking your fundamentals on EC2. So in EC2, there are different pricing model, and they want you to explain a bit more about spot instances. Very well. Pause the video here if you are interested to see how you would answer it. But let me go ahead and first explain a bit more about what spot instances are and how to tackle this question in the interview. Amazon EC2 spot instances let you know the advantages. It's basically that it lets you to take an advantage of AWS EC2 or unused EC2 capacity in that region. Spot instances are available for 90% discount compared to on-demand instances, meaning they are really, really cheap. But there are certain drawbacks of the spot instances, like you're already aware. That is, because they are really cheap and they're unused instance, let us say that somebody in a region wants 500 machines all of a sudden that is on demand. There might be a scenario that your spot instances might be taken away by AWS. And in this case, your application can fail. Now, what is a bid price in spot instances? In the screenshot that I have shared with you, you can see a beautiful graph of a machine type R4X large, correct? In this particular graph, you can see that there is a comparison of on-demand and different spot prices in different availability zones. You can see the price varies, right? So what is a bid price? Bid price is a price that you have to tell when you are getting the spot instances, how much you are okay to pay to get this particular EC2 instances. So if the on-demand price is 0.29, and if you send a bidding for 0. Let's say 0.5, is it a good bid price? No, because this bid price is less than the actual bid price, correct? So there is a very less chance you might get a spot instances. So what should be your bid price? Your bid price has to be more than the current spot instance price. So you can give like maybe $1 also, no problem. Or you can also give 0.400 cents also, which is also fine because it is greater than the current price. But what will you be paying? You will still pay the same spot instance price, but you are telling that you are okay till you reach this price. I will give you an example to make you understand this if you're getting confused, okay? Let us say that you are trying to buy a vehicle or a car, and there is a discount sale. When you go to the discount sale, let's say that you have an idea, right? You say that, okay, I want to buy the car at the discount sale, and the maximum I would like to pay is 3 lakhs. Just because you say the maximum is 3 lakhs, they will not increase their discount price, right? If the car is available for 2.5 lakh or 2.5K, let's say, then they will sell it for 2.5. But your budget was 3 lakhs. So take this example and you will understand this concept much better. Very well. So now that we have understood this particular concept, so how do you answer this particular question in the interview? Bid price in AWS EC2 spot instances is the amount that we are willing to pay to get this particular spot instance machine. The higher the amount, there is a good chance that we might get this spot instances. On a side note, I would also like to add that just because we have given a high bid price, it doesn't mean we will pay that price for this machine. The machine pricing will be still based on the current spot price. The bid price only determines our willingness on how much we would be okay to buy this particular EC2 instance for, or what pricing is okay for us to use this particular EC2 spot instances. I hope you understood these two questions today. And like I promised you in the earlier session, if you are interested in reaching out to me for a free DevOps career consultation, if you are wondering, I want to become a DevOps engineer, or if you have some questions on how I can crack DevOps interview or what I can do, I will give you a 30 minutes free time slot. And the link for that is in the description. You can reach out to me using that link. You can book a meeting with me by using that link, and we will be able to speak for 30 minutes for free of cost with me regarding your career development of becoming a DevOps engineer. I hope this video was helpful. Do like and subscribe. I will post more videos if you have liked my videos, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Welcome to DevOps interview preparation part 9. In this video, let us see what kind of questions will appear and how to tackle them in the interview. First question is coming from AWS, and the question is, what is AWS well-architected framework mean? It's a very, very basic question. Anyone who has taken an AWS training or has undergone DevOps training with AWS should be aware of this answer. If you have worked specifically with AWS for a very long time, then you should be knowing the well-architected framework because it is a part of the certification. So you can pause this video here and try to answer. Let me go ahead and explain a few things to you. AWS well-architected framework means what? Okay. Let us see, we are building a house. Okay. When we are building a house, we follow some basic rule, basic best practice. What are some basic best practices? Maybe, we should have a proper wall, a gate, windows for sunlight. And most importantly, it should be inside the frame of our site or land. After this, whatever you do is customization according to your need. So this is itself called as best practices for building a house. Similarly, in AWS, if you want to use AWS Cloud, AWS has defined some best practices. If you follow this best practice or well-architected framework, then you can get 100% better usage of AWS cloud. And that is what is AWS best practices or pillars of AWS. The first one is operation excellence. It means that the ability to run and monitor systems to deliver business value and continue to improve supporting processes and procedures. It is all about expanding your business. The second is security. When you are using cloud, it means that all the power is in your hands. If you do some security misconfiguration, the personal information of your company will be leaked. Hence, it is something that you have to also follow. The third one is reliability. Once you have your business up and running in cloud, customers and the users will be used to your application, and you need to define some uptime. And to maintain this particular uptime, you have to be reliable. Your systems have to be reliable. Performance efficiency. So let us see that if you have an EC2 instance and it is M3 series and the CPU utilization is 20%, are you doing a proper performance efficiency here? Not really, because you're using only 20% of the capacity of this machine. Maybe you can go to T3 or T2. This is called as performance efficiency. Last but not the least, cost optimization. Data centers, in data centers, what will happen is you have to plan before you build, plan and then build. In AWS, you can build directly. You don't have to plan because the resource will be available. The downside of this is you might end up spending so much money, which will result in a loss for your company. So cost optimization. How can you answer this question in the interview? Very simple. If you don't remember all the 5, don't worry. Okay. Remember that there is 5. Okay. First one, you say that I don't remember all the 5 exactly, but I can name a few. First of all, we start with operational excellence, meaning we have to make use of the best of our systems, monitor it, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimization. Again, if you don't remember any of this, give at least 3 of it. I think giving 3 is very easy. Security, reliability, cost optimization. You will remember this forever. So at least give the 3 as the answer. Let's see what kind of questions, what is the next question. But before that, I have a small announcement. I have released my course in Udemy that is called as 50 DevOps interview questions and answer. It is 40 hours of content. It is 40 hours of content. Okay. And I believe it will be super helpful for any one of you who is going to join. And you can check out the link in description for my Udemy discount code. These questions are not the ones that I'm discussing in this YouTube video. These are more in-depth questions, and it will be very useful if you want to buy this course in Udemy. Second, the first announcement is 50 DevOps interview questions and answer. Second, I usually take deep dive AWS session. So let us say answering some question like what is spot instances? What are the use of it, etc. Like this, there are certain deep dive sessions. If you want access to this, I will give you 6 months access to this, and you can check it out. You can reach me out via email. The details are in the description. Also, if you are not sure to purchase any of this, I have 1 hour free content in Udemy, which is about free DevOps interview questions and answer. You can also check that out in the link in the description. If you have liked what I'm trying to teach you, feel free to like, subscribe the channel, and leave comments if you want me to answer any specific DevOps interview questions that have come in your interviews. Okay, let's go to the next question. The question is from Kubernetes, and the question is, why does the Liveness probe have period second option? This question is in depth. Not everyone would have used a Liveness probe, nor everyone would have used period seconds option. So the expectation here is if you don't know, it is totally okay, but you should at least know what is Liveness probe, right? So let us see what this option is. Before that, let us try to understand what is liveliness probe, right? Liveliness probe is basically a test that is run after your pod gets built. We have a pod and it is deployed on our Kubernetes cluster. Is it properly running? Who is going to check this before sending the traffic? Somebody has to check this. And a liveness probe can be used to check if the pod is in the proper running state. Only after that, the incoming traffic will be sent to these pods. But sometimes these pods, they take 10 seconds or 5 seconds, etc. Right? Hence, you might need a gap to check it. And you might have to check 3 or 4 times before making sure that it is right. And this is where the period per second option comes into picture. And they can use this in case your pods take some time to spin up. Okay. If you have not understood this concept, don't worry. It is under Kubernetes. You can go back and read about it a bit more and try to see how you can tackle this question in the interview. Very well then. That is it for this video, my friends. If you also want to prepare for DevOps interview, then I do take mock interviews, which is a preparation for DevOps interview. You can always email me. You can see the email ID on my screen. It is also in the description. Go ahead, reach out to me. If you have liked this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you, and speak to you in the next video. Welcome to DevOps interview preparation part 10. If you're watching this video for the first time, then I would like to let you know that there are 9 other videos that I've prepared with respect to DevOps interview preparation, okay? And if you are someone who wants to prepare for mock interviews with me, then reach me out. You can find the details in the description. Before I start today's session, I would also like to let you know that I have just launched my course in Udemy called as 50 DevOps Interview Question and Answers 2022. You can find the link in the description for the Udemy course and purchase it if you're interested. I have covered 50 unique questions that can appear in the DevOps interview. Not only that, I have also shared how to answer them in the interview. Last but not the least, if you would like to speak to me, then book the 30 minutes free DevOps discussion session. And again, the link is in the description. Let us see the first question that can appear in the DevOps interview. And the question is, what is an SSL certificate? What is a SSL certificate? If you have studied AWS in your training or any cloud for that matter, then I am pretty much sure you would have come across the word SSL certificate. So what is SSL certificate? Let us try to understand that and later get the answer for that and in the interview, okay? So what is SSL certificate and why do we need it? We will take an example here. Let us say we have a user and this user is using a website. If this user wants to use this website, he might be asked to log in, correct? He might be requested to log in. He might be requested to share his username and password. When he enters this username and password, what actually happens? This goes to our application server, then goes to our database. It validates the username and password. That is the next step. And then the end user will be able to access the website. This is the standard process that is available. One key important thing is from the website to the application server, that is this particular path you are seeing, this happens via the network. This can be public internet, private internet, whatsoever. And here is where our hackers, people who want to steal your information, maybe they might end up sniffing in the information. And they might get your username and password. Now you might be wondering, Raghu, how is it even possible? It should not be possible, right? It has to be secure, a line of connection. If you have watched any movies, you would have heard that, let us say there is a James Bond, right? And he has a phone. When he calls someone from this particular mobile phone, this happens via secure network. So what is the secure network? Can't it be hacked? Not really, but there is a way in which you can encrypt the information that you're sending and then decrypt it at the end. During this process, it is completely encrypted. Nobody can get this information. Even if they get this information, let us say, even if the hackers get this information, they cannot decode this information. That is the idea. But how can we achieve this particular scenario? This is where SSL comes into picture. Fine. So let us see some details around SSL now. Now, SSL basically stands for, sorry, I think my audio is broken. Yeah. So SSL basically stands for secure connection, and it is done via attaching a certificate. This certificate is authorized certificate. And using this authorized certificate, whenever you make a connection, the detail is passed on to my application server via secure connection. And this is going to help us to make sure all username and password are properly encrypted. Okay, so how do you answer this question? SSL certificates are basically needed to make sure that our traffic from the public internet and to our application server is having a proper encryption enabled. If there is no proper encryption enabled, there is a very high chance that the information that we have entered, like username and password on our website, will be easily available to hackers and they can use it very easily. To avoid this, we need to encrypt and make sure we create a secure connection, and hence SSL certificates are used. If you are interested to know more about SSL certificates, how it works with AWS, etc., you can also request to me access to my AWS deep dive session and we can discuss it. But anyway, let us continue to our next question now. The next question is a very, very fundamental question in my opinion, and it should be very easy for anyone to answer. The question is, why are folders in Linux called directories? Okay. So why are they not called folders? If you're using a Windows laptop, you might see that there are some folders. We call them folders, no? We have a music folders, we have a video folder, etc. These are called as folders. But in Linux, these are called as dictionaries, or sorry, directories. Why are they called as directories and not folders? Maybe you can say that it is just a choice of the word that have been used. And that is perfectly the correct answer if you are saying if it is a choice of word that has been used. But there is a little bit more to add here. In terms of the English word folder and directories, there is a small difference. That is, if you have a directory, let us say, and if you have some small files here, the difference here is directory keeps a meta information. It keeps a meta information of the files in a place. If you access this metadata, you can access all the related file information. This makes a retrieval of files much faster. This also makes storing of your files much faster. Hence, these have a special use case on our Linux server, because in the Linux server, we have a lot of folders getting created, moved around. And hence, having this meta information stored in a place will play a very important role. And that is what is the reason why we also call it as directories. I hope it is clear for you. If it is asked in the interview, this is how you can answer. On a high level, I would say it is a choice of words, but at the same time, Directories have one of the special feature, that is they store the meta information of the files that are present inside the directories. Meaning, if you want to quickly access the files in the directories, let us say there are 100 files in the directories, it could be a bit faster in the Linux directory file system because it can access the meta information. And using this meta information, you can know the location of the file pretty quickly. This is how you can try to answer this particular question in the interview. Well, that is it for this video, my friends. If you have any questions in your mind, and if you want me to create those videos, don't forget to leave them in the comment section. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe the channel. There will be 2 to 3 videos coming every week on different DevOps technologies. And by just following this channel, I'm pretty much sure you'll be able to understand a lot more about DevOps. That is it for this session. Speak to you in the next session. Till then, take care and bye-bye.